So Adam, okay, we've had the whole disaster of COVID, the economy's supposedly imploded in places, other places not so much. So what are you seeing that the smart operators are doing now as we emerge from the crisis? What are the good things you've seen out of this whole episode?
The most encouraging thing that I've seen out of all of this is that the good business operators have taken the opportunity of shutdowns or partial shutdowns during COVID to really shore up the back end of their business and to, if necessary, pivot their business model to make sure that they not only just come out of COVID, but come flying out of COVID. And that's obviously what the best businesses are doing. The ones in the middle, they're I suppose tying up some loose ends, but they're still struggling with COVID. But the best examples I've seen are businesses that have fundamentally changed their business model or refined it and are coming out in leaps and bounds out of COVID.
Right, so Stuart, when this whole crisis began, I've told many people I read both your and Adam's articles as the two kind of how do I survive this for my own businesses. Anything you can add to that from what you've seen around the place?
Well, off the back of what Adam's just said, it's making sure your working capital is there for you and you have sufficient capacity and cash on hand to meet your commitments, but also what your monthly commitments are. If you're pivoting your business, like Adam's referred to, have they reassessed what their ongoing month-to-month overheads are going to be? How does their staffing structure fit into the new business model? What is the equipment finance working? How is that working for them? So it's just kind of that. It's a slightly different perspective to what Adam said, but it's the core of: have you got the cash to pay for what you want to do and what you need to do, and on a month-to-month street commitments, what does that look like over the next 6 months, 3 to 6 months? We've got Christmas coming up, which has traditionally been a restraining time for cash and cash collections. And then moving into the early part of next year, there's always a big BAS time in February when cash gets tight, and then JobKeeper ends in March. And so when you have a bit of a split economy, like Adam's referred to, where you've got the people, the smart guys who have reorganised their business or their business model, they have pivoted. You have the people in the middle section who are doing what they can, and then there's probably the third bunch of people down the bottom, the business people who are struggling, don't know what to do, and are not thinking about what Adam's referred to and what we're talking about right now.
Right, so make this time, and you're on record as well, Stuart, as saying this is almost a golden opportunity. You'll have seen that, Adam, that we've had a period of time where you've been forced to look at your business, haven't you? So, Adam, you sort of said there's a few at the top, there's a few in the middle, and Stuart, you said there's a few at the bottom. How many are the good operators, how many in the middle, and how many are the laggards? Where are you seeing it, Adam?
That's the million-dollar question at the moment. These are the things that are being bandied about in relation to the new legislation. Around small business insolvency, we really don't know what that looks like. We don't know if there's going to be a tsunami of insolvencies or whether it's just going to be a wave or just an ebbing tide. We really, really don't know. And I can only go on the people that have come through to me, but it's probably not a great barometer, because if people are seeking advice from people like Stuart or me, they're not probably in that bottom section of the people who are really, really struggling in business. I've always found that a lot of those people at that bottom end are the ones that leave it to the very, very last minute and until they're too far gone, and they're not the ones that seek advice early.
Yeah, and that's the maxim we've always said, try and seek advice before it's too late. But is it the Australian way to kind of leave it to the last minute, or is it not as simple as that? It's some people seek advice and some don't, or what do you say, Stuart?
Well, I agree with Adam. I mean, the smart people will be talking to, well, hopefully people like Adam and myself, but whoever their advisor is, getting some advice about moving forward and smart enough to be able to implement it. And if we guesstimated that there's a third who are smart at getting advice and have done a lot of the work to push through out of this period, there's a third in the middle or a bit more that are kind of doing things, but you know, in our world, we'd love to see them and talk to them and help them through. And then there's the bottom lot. I mean, the ABS say 1 in 10 businesses will fail next year. Okay, well, if it's 1 in 10, then there's probably a few more than 1 in 10 that are actually going to hit the wall. They're not talking to anybody. They're running out of cash. They don't know what they're going to do, but they're also the people who are sticking their head in the sand and not getting the advice they need, whether it's because maybe they don't have the cash, or they're afraid of having to pay for advice, or they just simply don't want to admit it because they have we all have egos, we all don't want to admit failure, and whether that's an Australian way or not, we'd all love to be convincing people out in the market to get advice, because often Adam and myself and others that you know will give some advice at no charge.
Yeah, that's right.
And the first hour or two is usually with advisors a general discussion where a couple of little gems might come out, and that could in fact be enough for someone to be able to go back and think about their own business.
Yeah.